In today's video, we have an NHL waiver claim to discuss, as well as a signing, a minor league trade, some other roster moves, including some injury updates. We'll discuss all that coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, we have a variety of news and notes to discuss today, including a waiver claim, a signing, a minor league trade, as well as some injury updates for players both going on and off of IR. So let's dive right in here and get started with the biggest news of the day, which was that St. Louis Blues goaltender Chad Johnson was placed on waivers yesterday, and he was claimed by the Anaheim Ducks. So the St. Louis Blues are now down a goaltender. They had already recalled goaltender Jordan Binnington up to the St. Louis Blues NHL team to replace Johnson. If Johnson had have gone unclaimed, I'm not sure what the plan was with him. I think they felt pretty confident right now that he likely would get claimed. Part of the Ducks strategy here is that backup goalie Ryan Miller was injured in Sunday's game. At this point, I haven't been able to find any reports indicating how long he'll be out, but he was just placed on IR today, I believe it was. So he's going to be out for a minimum of a week. So we'll see how that goes. So he's basically, Johnson's going to Anaheim as an insurance policy while Ryan Miller is out. Now, once he returns, Johnson very well could become available yet again and end up back on waivers or potentially down in the minors. Since Johnson hadn't been playing overly well for the St. Louis Blues, this is certainly a positive move, I think, for them. I mean, obviously, Jake Allen hasn't been, super awesome by any means for the Blues this year, but I do think he's been better as of late. He certainly had a great game a couple games ago, got a shutout. Last game, he ended up getting pulled. One goal was certainly a little fluky, so he hasn't had the greatest luck, but he's been a little bit hot and cold, but obviously with his contract and everything, certainly a little bit tougher to make a deal there. So for now, Johnson goes to Anaheim. Binnington comes up from the American Hockey League. He's been playing pretty well down there. Binnington has certainly been outplaying other American Hockey League goaltender Philly Husso. I mean, some people consider Husso to kind of be the heir apparent and the potential goalie of the future to the Blues organization. He's 23 years old, but he's certainly not putting up great statistics in the American Hockey League this year. So it looks as though his development might have kind of stalled a little bit. Binnington had played in 13 games where Husso has played in 15 games. And Binnington's numbers were significantly better. So we'll see how this goes with Binnington playing the role of backup to Jake Allen for the next little while here. That also gives the other goalie in the Blues organization, Evan Fitzpatrick, a chance to come up from the East Coast League and get some action at the American Hockey League. So it kind of gives all of their younger goalies outside of Jake Allen a chance to get a little bit more action at different levels, and so they can really evaluate their goaltending depth for this team here moving forward and decide what's best and how they should proceed here, because it's certainly been an area of inconsistency over the last couple seasons. Now, a couple minor updates here on the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've signed defenseman Calle Rosen to a 2-year extension valued at $750,000 per season. Rosen was set to become an RFA, but he's now been extended for 2 more years. He's just coming off a 2-year entry-level contract signed by the Maple Leafs as well. So right now, Rosen's going to stick around in the organization. I have not been able to confirm if that's a one-way or a two-way contract. The only real point, if it's a one-way or a two-way, is what the Leafs are obligated to pay him should he end up in the American Hockey League. But obviously at this point, it looks as though he might actually stand a chance to make the team next year. As we've discussed in other videos, the Leafs are going to have a lot of roster decisions to make moving forward based on all the contracts they have to look after before the start of next season. Quite a possibility we might not see guys like Ron Hainsey, Jake Gardiner return. Hard to say exactly right now what they're planning to do with guys like Marincin and Hall. They haven't been playing much this year, so Rosen very well might be able to move up to the NHL roster next year and be like, a 5, 6, 7 type of defender. Certainly a possibility. He's played pretty well in the American Hockey League. Certainly deserves to stick around in the organization for sure. So we'll see, but right now where that puts them for next year and beyond. But Rosen's going to certainly be sticking around. Maple Leafs also were involved in a minor league trade as well. They picked up defenseman Steve Oleski from the Ducks. He's going to be playing with the Toronto Marlies in exchange for forward Adam Cracknell. Cracknell's a little bit older, 33 years old. I think his NHL days are pretty much done. He did have sporadic NHL action over the number of years, up and down a lot between the NHL and AHL. Played a bit with the Marlies last year. I think the main thing that motivated this move is that the Maple Leafs are going to need another AHL defenseman down there. Obviously, they have guys like Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren on loan to Sweden for the World Junior Championships coming up here. So they're going to be, away from the Marlies for an extended period of time. Both of those defenders are very, very likely to make that roster and have a chance to play. So during their absence, they could certainly use some extra help back there for sure. So I think that's really just a depth move for those purposes. And of course, like I said, Cracknell's 33. Basically his NHL days are kind of done. Not a big part of their future, so makes sense to swap him out for a defender who can help them now. Now let's jump over and take a look at some injury news, some good and some not so good. And let's get started with the biggest news of all, which came in the last 24 to 48 hours here, that goaltender Antti Raanta is likely done for the season. Now the last time we discussed injuries, we talked about Raanta, and they were listing him as week to week, likely going to be out for a couple of weeks. He did end up having a surgery somewhere on his lower body. I think it was around his ankle somewhere, and the surgery revealed that the damage was much more significant than they ever anticipated going into the surgery. So instead of being out for a couple of weeks, he's going to be out for an extended period of time, and they said it very well could spell the end to his season. Now, surprisingly, the Coyotes are not looking for goaltending help, because they also have goaltender Darcy Kuemper, who's been basically a backup role to Raanta. He's also out injured. Now, he's not expected to be out for the rest of the season, but he is going to be out for a little while longer. So right now, they seem to be confident and comfortable platooning basically between Calvin Pickard, who they grabbed on waivers a little while ago, as well as goaltender Adin Hill, who's actually been playing relatively well. So it's going to give them an extended look at Hill, see what kind of future he holds within their organization. Pickard very well, again, like some of these other waiver moves, basically like a stopgap insurance situation while their other goalies recover. Once Darcy Kuemper comes back, we could see possibly Calvin Pickard on waivers are available again. Hard to say, kind of depends on how he plays as well. So we'll see how that goes. But not good news for the Coyotes. I mean, the Coyotes were a team we expected to be significantly improved this year. I know a lot of people certainly predicted that this would be the year they'd get back to the playoffs. I didn't quite go that far, but I did expect them to certainly be up higher in the standings. And not having Raanta for the bulk of the year is certainly going to be a big blow on that. They have a lot of other injuries as well, especially at the forward position too. So things are not going well this year when it comes to Coyotes and their health situation. So we'll see how this goes. But if Adin Hill can keep up strong play, maybe it'll be all right. Now, a couple key players coming back to their teams activated off IR includes Jaden Schwartz of the St. Louis Blues. Now, of course, the Blues, again, a team we've already talked about a bit in this video, going through a pretty tough season right now. Lots of ups and downs, and certainly the downs have been more than the ups right now. They're certainly, a fragile team to say the least. There was news reported through social media just in the last day or so as well that there was a fight broke out at practice between Bortuzzo and Sanford, I believe it was. Didn't really see the video. That video didn't really kind of show a lot of what kind of led to the fight, so I'm not sure, exactly what caused it. But that is something that's not super uncommon. It does happen from time to time when you have like battle drills and certain types of things that you're working on in practice. It's not the first time we've seen players on the same team get into a little bit of a scrap, but at the same time, based on the video, it didn't look like something like that was going on. So I really don't know. They haven't released much other information, at least that I've seen. So if you have any other information around what might have caused that fight, certainly leave a comment down below. Let us know. But the Blues are certainly a very fragile group. They need to get themselves together. Getting a guy like Jaden Schwartz back would certainly help a long ways. But as they've said in team interviews, post-game interviews especially, like, they're such a fragile team that it doesn't take much to get them down. And unfortunately, once they get into that spot, things don't go right to start the game. It's just so easy to get deflated. So we'll see. I think the Blues likely need significant change. Of course, we discussed in a video the other day the possibility of Captain Alex Pietrangelo being available, maybe the Leafs being interested. Hard to say if something like that would go down. Just a topic of conversation from Saturday headlines from Hockey Night in Canada. Of course, Pietrangelo's on IR right now for at least a few more weeks by the looks of it. So obviously that's it's not something that's going to happen anytime soon if it did. So we'll see. But keep your eyes on the Blues. Hopefully they can get themselves going here between Johnson going, Schwartz coming back. Maybe that'll kind of give them a little bit of a jolt here, and they can hopefully get some things turned around and get some positivity here to their season. Now, Michael Furland's returning as well for the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, that big trade between the Hurricanes and Flames this year is working out relatively well so far for both sides. Lindholm's performing exceptionally well in Calgary. Furland was off to a pretty good start with Carolina as well. Carolina's had a hard time at times putting the puck in the net, so getting Furland back will certainly help. He did have a pretty good start to his season, so we'll see if that can give them a boost as well. A few other players going on IR was Michael Backlund of the Calgary Flames. He took a big hit just a couple games ago. Certainly appeared to be injured. It wasn't quite clear if it was a concussion or exactly what was wrong with Backlund, but he is going on IR. Vinny Hinostroza, another player for the Coyotes. As I mentioned, they're battling a lot of injuries up front too. Dylan DeMello is also on IR for the Ottawa Senators now. In the last game for the Senators, he was kind of like a late scratch. It wasn't really clear if he was going to be able to go or not. They didn't really disclose a whole lot. Basically, an undisclosed lower body injury is kind of what the information that was provided. But again, in Ottawa, another team that's been banged up. All of a sudden, you get some key significant injuries like Matt Duchene, Bobby Ryan, Dylan DeMello. some pretty important players that play a lot of big minutes. So we'll see how they can respond here and how their organizational depth is going to be tested, just like the Coyotes here. Certainly some teams going through some tough times on that front. And one last piece of news as well regarding injuries and regarding the Blues here. Yet again, defenseman Joel Edmondson will be scratched from tonight's game. Not quite clear if he's going to be out beyond just this one game or not. There wasn't a whole lot of information released on what was going on with him. I just happened to notice here on social media prior to hitting record that he was going to be out for this evening, and it wasn't quite clear exactly what the plan would be or how long he would be out from there. So again, you get one guy back for the Blues, you lose another one. So they're getting Schwartz back at forward. Edmondson's out on defense. Obviously, some changes with the goaltending situation with Johnson going over to the Ducks. So we'll see what happens here. Obviously, the Blues, again, another team like the Coyotes, Senators, etc., battling the injury bug and certainly facing a lot of adversity in this young NHL season. Of course, as always, love to hear your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section. Obviously, we have another goalie going on waivers and being claimed. Seems to be a common trend here this year. We certainly have some goaltending carousels going on around the league, mostly due to NHL injuries here. We've found some of the top starters and backup goalies around the league. So can Johnson be a help to the Anaheim Ducks? He's likely going to sit on the bench a lot while Gibson takes the reins there again, as always, but we'll see. Hopefully Gibson can stay healthy for the Ducks. He's certainly been their MVP so far. The other big question from today's video that I'd love to hear your comments on is, what do you think about the Arizona Coyotes not really going out and finding another goaltender with more experience? With Raanta being out and Kumper being out at least shorter term, at least for a while, what do you think of their decision to run here with Adin Hill and Calvin Pickard? If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up before you go. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.